Hello again. Trying to get back to some semblance of a proper schedule with this, so I'm a little bit behind, and I know this is going to be quite hard on the heels of the last one. But yes, hopefully it'll be a bit more regular now that term is starting. Hurrah! New academic year, always a good time. So the big news over the last couple of weeks is that I spent 4 days up at Snape Maltings near Aldeburgh in Suffolk with bastard assignments on a residency, which was our first residency week for Snape Maltings. We've got 2 years of being able to use their facilities, basically, which is very exciting. And so this was our first time up there. We had 4 days, and I worked on 2 pieces over that time. So I spent 2 days on Aid Memoire, which is the piece with the cameras, which is for live performance on BBC Radio 3 Here and Now in a few weeks' time. And also some time on Community of Objects. So I'll talk a bit about both of those. So Aid Memoire, I took up what was basically the version that I played a snippet of last time. I did make a few small changes, but nothing major at all. What I wanted to do was just to get some feedback from the guys and to see how that was going to work, play around with the cameras, test out Josh's cassette players, which I'm happy to say was a huge success. I think that's going to be a really nice way of getting the field recordings into the mix, is to have it being played back on cassette. Just gives a nice lo-fi, less polished quality to it. It emphasises the recording nature of it. It's less about being in an environment as opposed to listening to a recording. So I took all that up the first day and made changes overnight based on the discussion that we had, and then took another version back the next day. Overnight, a few changes happened, principle of which was that the piece now has a live narration talking about what the field recordings actually are, where they were taken, how long ago, little details like that. At the moment it's just a rough improvised version, but because I was just trying to get a feel for how that would work. This is from Australia, the trip we took in 2015. We spent 3 months over there. That's a crested pigeon. That's an Australian magpie. We were staying out in Armidale, in the middle of the country, and the birds were just so clear and no interruptions from anything else. It was wonderful. And cicadas. Of course, it was summer. A train leaving the station in Seville. I don't really know anything else about it, but I just liked the way it sounded. And what I discovered by just having a go with that was that it completely transformed the role of the camera sounds. And I think what I'm heading towards now is having some camera sounds on the tape and then sort of gradually being taken over by live camera sounds, which I think will hopefully bring more of a live sense into the piece, and draw more attention to those camera sounds too. So I've also been thinking about liveness and, why are these camera sounds live? What does that mean in conjunction with the field recordings? And the topic of the show that we're performing on is memory, and so it's thinking about memory and what does that mean to be actually taking photos in the performance as well. Overall, the response of the bastards to it was really, really good. And I think it's come a long way just in 2 days of looking at it. We had a bit of a play around with cameras as well, and I think that went well. It was certainly enjoyable to watch, enjoyable to do. Has raised one potential ethical dilemma though, which is the question of photographing the audience to use images somewhere else. I suspect very much that I'll actually need permission to do that. Whether it's going to be enough to warn people that it's happening and ask them to move or something like that if they don't want to be photographed or have their image used later. Yeah, I'm not sure. I need to do some more research onto that and see what's going to be possible. So I'm very happy with the resulting photos from that session as well. I think there's an interesting mix of portraiture, nicely framed images, snapshots, random images, blurry things, crystal clear stuff. It's really mixed up, and I think it gives an interesting portrayal of the performers and the performance space and what's actually going on at that point of performance. So this has got me thinking too about art shots versus portraiture versus snapshots, selfies, and how to use these kind of different modes of image capturing in the performance. I'm not sure how detailed I want to go with saying this type of image in this type of spot, but it might be quite nice to play with, to have, say, more sort of framed shots at the start perhaps, and then getting more snapshotty as it goes on, just sort of crazy, click at everything, take a selfie, do this, do that, and have it become gradually less formal perhaps. Yeah, still working on that. So the other piece I was working on was community of objects, and we actually have a new video of this, of a performance that we did at Snape Maltings in front of an audience of about 20 people who our producer emailed basically everyone who was on site and said, there's a thing happening, come along if you want to. So quite a few people turned up, which was really nice. And the video has been really helpful actually, because I didn't see our performance at Brighton. It wasn't recorded in any way. And so there are a few things there I wasn't sure if they worked. I think I'm gradually coming to reject the idea of the dust suits that we were wearing. Yes, visually they're very interesting, they give a very strong image, but I feel that it makes us not feel like individuals, not feel like real people. It feels more like an acted piece. While I feel that the bits that work the best are the bits that are most genuine, which is how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to be basically a voyeuristic experience, looking at an intimate experience on stage, and when it feels acted, that's not really happening. This also raises a big challenge for me in terms of Bastards performing it again and again and again. We've got a new performance coming up, we're doing it at the Royal Academy of Arts, I'll put the details below, as well as Huddersfield, and it's really sort of raising the bar for me in terms of how I then approach the boxes, so that it's not like, oh yeah, it's a box, it's paper, whatever. And so I'm thinking about the form of the box, other things that could go in it, and trying to get away from the things that I've already used, because I felt that those bits that had been used in the Brighton performance were less strong this time than they had been. Most of them were in the plus minus performance, and I still find that that is actually the most compelling performance it's had, and I think that's simply because of the simplicity of it and the fact that everything was completely unexpected because they didn't even know me. Yeah, so it's problematic, and I'm also beginning to think that I probably shouldn't be performing it. I mean, I'm committed to these next two performances, but I think I need to think very carefully about how I approach that, and beyond that I think I'm just going to step back and not perform it at all myself. So the video and that performance has been extremely useful in terms of my thinking about what I want to do with the piece and how to progress that. We've also been working on ways to rehearse it, and yeah, we came up with the idea of games. I think it was Ed suggested that everybody pick 3 things, and two of us sat there with our eyes closed, and you gave them random things, and some of them were quite big, and that introduced interesting ideas about scale and how that might work. And it was actually nice to be able to step back and be audience and see how these performers I'm going to be performing with respond to certain objects. So that was really a helpful thing to do, I think, when you can't really, because it's not a rehearsable piece, because the score is single use and you're supposed to experience it for the first time on stage, and it takes 10 hours to make. It's not really a practical thing to actually do the piece as a rehearsal, so you need to find other ways to get around that. The final thing I want to talk about today is a new project called Whitespace. Tentatively, I don't know if this is going to keep. I don't know if this is going to be a name to keep. But I've been thinking about sort of space on the page, space on the studio, space on the stage, and how that affects a performance and what we do. So I started a new sketchbook, just a little one. Yeah, I've just been doing sort of scribbled things, which use the page in various ways, and sort of thinking about what that might be interpreted as in performance, and orientation to a space, and scale, and things like that. So that's a bit messy at the moment. It feels like a little bit of nothing at all. The next step is to take these ideas and basically physically map them across the studio and see how I interpret those actually in the space. I'm thinking I might use my flute for this, and think about actual melodies, notes maybe. Not sure. Hopefully there'll be something on that next time, and I think this sort of the book aspect of this is going to maybe progress through a few different versions. I've been thinking about arrows pointing through directions, but yeah, not sure yet. I need to actually do something practical with this. And that's about it for the fortnight. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment below. And yeah, I will see you in another couple of weeks. Thanks. Bye.